ladies and gentlemen. I can see some ladies around, so it's a pleasure and an honor to be here. Thank you, Mr. Murthy, and of course, Mr. Tansale's pitch report has actually set the agenda for you all and given me some food for thought. Much like cricket, which is driven so much by facts, figures, and stats, I went through, what was, I think, a very enlightening kind of introduction to me to the area of banking, which I must confess I used to be petrified of, because my signature on checks used to be a scribble, and every time I went to present a check to the bank, they would ask me to give a fresh specimen signature, and it went on and on and on for years. So I'm really happy now to be into internet banking, because they never ask for my signature. Once is good enough. Since this keynote address is about cricket, and I'll try and draw some kind of parallel in how we build up an innings, putting your best shot forward, which is also about how one can build up a career or an organization. I hope those are the, cricket is a metaphor, or sport is a metaphor, and we can extrapolate it to so many things. But before I get down to that, let me throw a quick dusra at you. Tell me, which head of state has been a first-class cricketer, former? Anybody knows the answer? He's a head of state and has been ex-first-class cricketer. Well, I can tell you, since the company is from Hyderabad, former the Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister was a first-class cricketer. But this is a head of state. Come on, you can do better than that. You'll be surprised. Nawaz Sharif. Yes. So, Nawaz Sharif played for Punjab. Not a very successful career, I must say. But he is a cricket lover. He is passionate about cricket. In fact, so passionate that I remember one match, actually, my fellow commentator Ramin Raja mentioned some days back. He was playing in a match, he got dismissed, and he refused to leave the field. Because he was then Chief Minister of Punjab, having finished his first-class career, and now, of course, he is the Prime Minister. So, but the good part, if I may just kind of delve a little into politics, is that if you have a sporting instinct, then somebody with a sporting instinct, there are better chances of improved relations. So hopefully we'll see India and Pakistan not just playing cricket but being better neighbors. Okay, a little bit about myself. I thought I'll just let you know in case some of you or most of you don't know. I'm a sports writer and commentator and whatever else by default. Like all sports writers are, they aspire to be sports persons. They are failures here, so they say, "Chalo, next best thing kya karna hai? Sports writer ban jao." So I became a sports writer. I've been writing on sports since 1978, 79. In between, I've edited newspapers, Midday, Bombay Times, DNA I launched, and so I've been around a bit, as you can make out from my hair. Cricket. We are thought to be a one-sport country in many ways, that's right. Hopefully that will change, because I am passionate about other sports too. But cricket to me, or to my mind, remains the most magnificent of all games, because it's very subtle, it's very nuanced, it's got very intricate skills, technical, and obviously there's a huge amount of play of temperament that comes in. You can't play cricket mindlessly, you have to have your mind, your wits about you. It's a challenge to both your physicality as well as how you are mentally. And I think that strikes a parallel whatever we do in life. Life, according to me, is, well, in the old days they used to have timeless test matches. So it's like a timeless test match. It never ends. It throws up challenges every day. I know that we also got into the IPL and the T20 era, but somewhere the fundamentals don't change. And let me explain to you a little better how I see cricket different from, say, football or hockey, which are great sports. A lot of the thinking for football and hockey, the planning, is all done in the drawing board before the start of play. Play is compressed into 90 minutes, 70 minutes, 2 hours. There's not much time for decision making in football. It's more instinctive than thoughtful decision making, if you get what I mean. In cricket, even in a T20 game, an over which has 6 deliveries, every delivery is a discrete event in itself. A bowler who's coming over the wicket and has been hit for a 6, a batsman hits a cow shot, he decides now I must fox him, he can go around the wicket, bowl a different angle, well, like you see Ayaaz doing now. He's trying to extract a different angle of delivery. He can go back to over the wicket, round the wicket, 6 times in an over. The captain can change the field placing around to see how best he can do to control the scoring or getting the batsman out. And the batsman can obviously think of how to counter. While it's a team sport, it's also, from a batsman point of view, an individual sport. There are 11 players ranged against him. One of them is a bowler, the other is a wicketkeeper, and then there are 9 fielders. And it's 1 man against 11. Of course, he's got a non-striker for company, but the non-striker is not playing. He's watching from the other end and trying to absorb and assimilate what he can do best. So, it may seem a little stretched, but it's very nuanced, it's very intricate. Cricket as a team sport to me has no parallel, and you will find that it's true perhaps of the vocation or the profession that you are in, that everything seems, run of the mill. ठीक है, वही जाके करना है, but there are highly nuanced factors and facets to your job, much as there is in life. If you live a rich life or aspire to, then you have to not only have your eyes open, but also your mind open. Otherwise, you can't. Likewise, on the field of play, if you go in there with only the drill of net practice, but not an imaginative mind, you might not be highly successful. I can't think of any player. You don't have to be a PhD, but you have to have an open mind. And that's really what you do in sport also is absolutely true in life. So what I thought is trying and constructing how do you play a good knock, a good inning. A good knock can be a life well lived, a business well run, started and executed and improvised, whatever it is. A job well done, a career well lived, again. So I chose 6 strokes from cricket. Obviously there are many strokes in cricket. It's a 360-degree area that a batsman can score runs from. The fundamental issue for the batsman is to score runs. And therefore, how do you do it best to construct an innings which acquires all these facets? I will run through these. If at any stage you think you need to ask me a question, contest what I'm saying, please do so. There is no issue at all. Every now and then I'll try and bowl a dusra at you. And then maybe after about 35-40 minutes, I'll throw it open. You can ask me all kinds of questions, including where Virat Kohli might be today. He's not in Bombay or India, but we'll try and find out where he is. Okay, so how do I, the number 1? This side. Okay. My first stroke is the forward defensive stroke. We've got one of the greatest exponents of this stroke. Anybody know who this is? Absolutely, that's Rahul Dravid. That's another view of Rahul Dravid, and I'll explain to you why I think this is a magnificent, it's a model stroke for anybody aspiring to be a cricketer, and not just a cricketer. I think somebody who is aspiring to do anything in life. We say he is a role model, and I can explain to you from a cricketing aspect why he is a role model. What is the front foot defensive stroke all about? It's laying the foundation for anything that you want to do in cricket. If you don't have this stroke, it's highly unlikely you can play a long inning. In fact, I would go so far as to say it is almost impossible. It's not unlikely. If you don't have this stroke, you are likely to fall very early. You might play the odd innings that goes slam bang and survive and maybe make 50, 70, 100, but you can't do it regularly. This is preservation of wicket, preservation of life, preservation of job, preservation of business, preservation of career. Unless your foundation is strong, you can't do it. What does this come from? It's knowledge, according to me. When you translate technique into knowledge, it's your knowledge base. And your knowledge base is about the forward defensive stroke, like all cricketing strokes, but more so this one. This is not flamboyant at all. It looks very easy, but it's the bedrock of everything that you do. And it has to do with a great sense of balance. Can I play this again? Do I go back? How do I just go back to this and play it again? Okay. So just watch the approach. He's put one long stride out, bat and pad close together, eye on the ball. When, I'm a failed cricketer, but anybody who's played a little cricket and been coached even for 4 days, 5 days by a good coach will tell you, your job is to smell the leather. You have to eyes on the ball, lean into the stroke, smell the leather. When you start smelling the leather, you are as close to the ball as possible. The margin of error is very small. The face of the bat is open, the ball will hit the middle of the bat, and you are secure and safe. Now all these terms that I am using are to do with the knowledge and the skills that you acquire to get to this level, maybe into a job, first job, maybe your studies. If your studies are haphazard, not well founded, not because the educational institution is bad and the professors are bad, but maybe because of bad habits, bad approach, it will start showing up, like technical deficiencies start showing up in any sport, more so in cricket. This is the bedrock, the forward defensive stroke. And I chose Dravid because I think in contemporary cricket from India, nobody has been better than this. I don't think even the great Tendulkar. For the sheer commitment to start with what I know best, this is my starting point. The only other person I can draw parallel from is Sunil Gavaskar, who Mr. Murthy and I are the same vintage, will know was a great exponent of the forward defensive stroke. Corollaries to these strokes are the ability to read the line and the length. The length is what we saw, how he read the length and the line and played that forward defensive stroke. You'll also find a lot of batsmen, which I can't show you everything, we're not seeing the whole live telecast, is when a batsman leaves, lets go of the ball. That is to do with temptations and distractions, which might seduce you into believing that you are bigger than what you are. And how do you control yourself? Self-control is integral to success in whatever area of life that you are in. Whether it is business, and we can sometimes get misled or led astray by seeing somebody else. Rahul Dravid all his life never tried to bat like Sachin Tendulkar or Brian Lara, because he knew that he is Rahul Dravid. He knew what his strengths are because he knew what his limitations are. And I think that's a very strong learning for me. I find Rahul Dravid a great role model because he is somebody you can emulate. In my opinion, Tendulkar is a genius. Geniuses are not easy to emulate. For geniuses, things come very easily. And they also wonder why other people can't play like them. So, I can give you an example. Tendulkar, arguably, or perhaps unarguably, the greatest batsman of our era, of our age, but not a great captain. Because, in my opinion, what I saw of him, he always thought that, heck, why can't he play properly? He couldn't understand the other players' shortcomings because he was on a different level. Somebody like Rahul Dravid, as a mentor, we have seen for Rajasthan Royals or wherever else, he understands the limitations of others because he has understood he has also overcome his limitations. He started with some fundamentals and built up his repertoire of strokes, skills, and whatever else to make 13,000 runs, play for almost 20 years, finish with an average of 50 plus. I saw him play his first innings at Lords in 1996. He made 95, batting at number 7. And as you by now you must know I'm a great admirer of Rahul Dravid. He's done everything for Indian cricket. He's kept wickets. He's batted at number 1 in Test matches, in one-day matches, number 1 to number 7, and he's captain. He's done almost everything that you can ask for. He's also taken 200 slip catches, all based on strong fundamentals. This is just a picture of it's a half-cocked defensive shot, but it's part of the same series that there are two kinds of defensive strokes that one learns and learns. And when defensive is misread or misunderstood that, oh, it's only about saving your wicket or saving your skin. No, it's getting acclimatized to the environment, the conditions. when a batsman walks out into a match, a test match or a one-day match or even a T20 match, as far as the batsman is concerned, he is entering a very hostile environment for him. The crowd may love him, but there are 11 guys wanting to get him out. That's a hostile environment. So the first concern for everybody is, how do I survive this hostile environment before I go on to the next step? There are ways and means of survival. There is a counter-attack. Sometimes they say attack is the best form of defense. Could be. But over a long career, if you don't have a sound defense, you are unlikely to play a long inning. This is the back foot defensive stroke. Now, there are obviously strategies that come in. One was smelling the leather, the other is getting back and across, using technical terminology for cricket, that you have sussed out the pace and the bounce of the pitch. You've seen a bit of the bowlers, what they are likely to do. There's a little bounce, there's a little help for the bowlers. Again, technical efficiency. You have to get behind the line of the ball. This demands physical courage. Because if you're not behind if you are behind the line of the ball and not properly behind the line of the ball, there's a chance that you might get hit. If you take your eyes on the ball, there's a chance it might hit the bat, your glove, go to the slips, forward shot who's not here, you can see two slip fielders in place, or you might get physically hit. There was a time when the West Indies had 4 fast bowlers coming at you all the time. It was not easy to bat at all. And I know a lot of Indian players who had bruises, chests have become lavender and pink and all being hit, because that sustained brutal assault was difficult. So, the getting behind the line of the ball is to show application and physical courage and mental courage. And at some stage, there comes a time when batsmen even decide not to risk that shot and take it on the chest, where I don't get out. It's happened. One English captain called Brian Close, who was nowhere close to being a great batsman, was sent in at number 3 or 4 to face the fast bowlers of the West Indies in 1976. And he said, I'm not going to give my wicket, so you take it on his chest, because there's no way you can get out leg before wicket. Wear down the bowlers, wear down that assault, that attack on you. How successful he was is a matter of opinion, but he showed physical courage, which is a very refreshing sign or an encouraging sign for the other players in the dressing room. So, we're getting into this aspect of the influence you have on your team. Sunil Gavaskar made 13 hundreds against the West Indies alone. Out of 34, 13 were against the West Indies in the days when there were no helmets, there were no chest guards, thigh guards, these guards, that guards. In fact, he used to wear a floppy cap with a skull cap. And later on, after he finished his career, he realized that actually it was more dangerous than wearing no cap. Because the skull cap was not a helmet. If it hit you there, the chances for concussion were greater. So, inadequate knowledge in those times, but he survived in 1300s. Moving on. This is again an example of the back foot defense. Look at this, this is a magnificent picture. He's jumping high up in the air. Again, the eyes are completely on the ball. So in any environment that we are in, these are defense mechanisms that we have to master. Whether I am in a newsroom following a career, you are in the banking industry, or you are an entrepreneur, or you are in political life, there is the front foot defense and the back foot defense. These are two aspects which are basically survival tactics, so that you spend time in the middle, you get used to the environment, you have understood the opponent's strengths, weaknesses, the state of the pitch, and what you can do next. And what you can do next is, look at this. Anybody know what the batsman is? Sorry? I didn't hear that. Tendulkar. Absolutely. The bowler is Moni Mokal. And this is in slow motion. And I don't think there are better sights than this in the game of cricket at all. Sachin Tendulkar in full flow. How do I pause this? The center button? Space button? No. How do I do it? Okay. So, this is what I call that you've spent your initial period of time, in the middle, sussing out the conditions, the bowlers, the strengths, the opponents, your team's position, what you need to do. You need to now build the innings. You can't always be front foot or back foot, front foot or back foot, because the objective of the batsman is to score runs. Score runs for himself, for his team, and build up a total. So comes a period of consolidation after you've survived that period of uncertainty when you're going out first to bat and you don't know what the conditions are. Is the pitch grassy? Is it got bounce? Is it a little moist? Is it flat? Is it dead as a dodo track? Is there turn? What is there? So you start with your foundation. And foundation, I must tell you that at least in cricket, and I'm sure it's applicable in every walk of life, if you go and watch net practice before the test match, or even a T20 match, any batsman, and I'm talking the top order, the qualified specialist batsmen, they will start their net practice with forward defensive stroke, then tell the bowler short dollar, back foot defensive stroke. The minute they get their defense organized and their feet moving, they get a sense of their own movements, the balance, then they start getting into playing shots to score runs. What does it mean? You start acclimatizing yourself. If I'm going into a new job, a new newsroom, for instance, or a new banking, entity, on the first day itself, you're unlikely to take on everybody and say, no, I'm going to hit a 6 here. You get a feel of the place. You try and acclimatize. When you're setting off for work from home, you're saying, this is what I must do, this is what I must, and then when I'm meeting my boss or I'm meeting my peer group, how am I going to play? This is what my last job has taught me. Let's see how this organization plays out. These are all to do with basic education and learning lessons of life. Likewise in cricket. Then comes this period, what I call of consolidation. The cover drive I've chosen, but you can choose any drive. You can choose the on drive, you can choose the off drive, you can choose, the drive through mid wicket. This is what I call consolidation after laying the foundation. The job is to score runs. You have now settled in. You can't not score runs. If you're not scoring runs, if you're not of value to your team, then you're making yourself redundant. And therefore you have to start playing now, looking for those gaps in the field. You'll find a lot of people playing strokes, and everybody who's watched cricket, I'm sure a lot of you all have. What differentiates an average batsman from a good batsman to a great batsman? You saw that stroke from Sachin Tendulkar. When he played that cover drive, Sachin Tendulkar's cover drive was famous. They would set an offside field for him. But he would, once he got his eye in, once he had settled in, he would beat the field repeatedly, which meant dexterity. You open the face of the bat in a position where you beat the field. There may be a point, a cover, a mid-off. To beat that field and score 4 runs is a sign of virtuosity. A lesser batsman would play a cover drive, but would hit it straight to the bowler, to the fielder. You get no runs. You try that 4-5 times, you get frustrated. You try and clear the field, you get out. The great batsmen learn how to manage the field, and at some stage they move the field around as they will. That's why they say that Tendulkar or Lara or Ricky Ponting or some of these great players used to dictate to the other side how they would play. Because if the captain moved the field around a bit, you move the cover point to extra cover, the next cover drive would go through cover point. And you say, now what do? I move cover point back again, it plays through extra cover. This is the consolidation. You start scoring runs. Essentially, these front foot drives are an extension of the technique of your forward defense, or the back foot cover drive is of back foot defense. Back foot defense cover drives are very difficult to play, and the real hallmark of Sachin Tendulkar's genius, according to me, was the stroke he would play through the covers of the back foot. He was a short-made man, and I've seen him hit the fastest bowlers off the back foot through the covers, which is an extremely difficult shot to play. It requires a great sense of footwork, great sense of timing and panache. to beat the field on the back foot. And it's very, I don't know anybody is tried, and he used to use a heavy bat, which is why he suffered injury problems later. Because a small made man using a very heavy bat takes its toll of the wrist. Mr. Murthy has played some cricket, I know. And Gundappa Vishwanath had that stroke. He was my favorite cricketer also. Don't tell that to Gavaskar, but Vishwanath is my favorite. That kind of a stroke requires a lot of strength in forearms, wrists, and it comes automatically once you have become a seasoned player. You don't even have to look at cover point to play there. The sense of direction comes from your top hand. When you hold the bat, how you turn the face of the bat gives direction to the ball. And that is the period of this when you are exploding, so to speak, or expanding your foundation into expressing your greater skills, your better skills, to score runs, to accumulate a total, to make your career richer, your organization better, more solid, and whatever else, whatever way you want to see it. The trick, of course, as I mentioned, is to find gaps and not just for playing. Now, there is an interesting dimension to this. We don't have any footage of that. But where temperament and intelligence come in, and of course, experience. The same man, Sachin Tendulkar, in 2004 and 5 was going through a lean patch. We were in Australia. Rahul Dravid was scoring a lot of runs. In fact, that series was drawn. Ganguly was the captain. The only failure in the top order, Sehwag was going great guns, Lakshman was making runs, Dravid was making runs, even Ganguly made runs. The only man not making runs was Sachin Tendulkar. So we came to Sydney, and as always when a great player goes through a bit of a lean patch, everybody starts talking, career khatam ho gaya, it's over, he's been around, this, that, and the other. The Sydney pitch was relatively slower compared to Australian pitches, compared to Indian pitches, very quick and bouncy. Sachin Tendulkar made 248. 248 not out in that innings. He just was so intent on getting a score. And I can tell you that there are two batsmen who I have seen in my life who could score 100 if they really were determined कि 100 बनाना है, they would make it. One was Gavaskar, the other was Tendulkar. They come from the Bombay school of batting, which puts a premium on their wicket. They're not like Vishwanath. Exhilarating player. Ask him to bat 2 days, he might not, but Gavaskar would bat 2 days. Application. But in Tendulkar's case, what he did, his favourite stroke, the cover drive, he did not play till he was about 170, 180. He just completely ignored that stroke because in the first 3 tests, this was the 4th test of the series, or the last test, I think, 5th test, he had got out almost every time playing the cover drive. A little technical weakness, maybe opening the face of the bat a little early, caught in the slip, caught in the covers, caught at cover point. Too many similar dismissals. He took stock. He went there, he judged the pace and whatever else of the pitch very early, and he said, minimize my risk. Anybody who tells you that cricket, even for a Sehwag, it's a percentage game. Virendra Sehwag is the most dashing player that we've seen in the last 25, maybe 30 years, 50 years. In my opinion, the most destructive, devastating batsman since Viv Richards. He's of that category. He's the biggest match winner that India has had in the last 10, 12 years. Not a very sound defense like a Rahul Dravid or even the Sachin Tendulkar, but he had other qualities. A great eye-hand coordination, a little reflexes slowing down now, so he's getting a little exposed, but we saw him play a terrific mark in the IPL recently when he gets going. So he's also a genius. But in Sydney, he just completely, Tendulkar cut off that square drive or the cover drive till he was about 170, 180, and then he started playing the shots. And I spoke to Steve Waugh often enough, even after that match as the captain. He says, this is the greatest innings I've seen from Sachin. So I said, why? He said, self-control. Risk management. The percentage of failure he just brought down so dramatically that we just couldn't get him out. We didn't know what to do. He was secure in everything else in the previous innings, previous matches. He had become insecure because of a technical hitch with his cover drive. He just negated it. To me, the bigger message is this. He was the greatest batsman in the world. It's sublimation of ego. He didn't go out there and say, I'm the greatest, I can do it again, I'll do it again, I'll do it again. He realized that despite being the greatest, the trend of play, the run of play is against him. Maybe because of his own weakness, maybe because of luck, maybe because the opponent is better. What do? Play a percentage game, minimize my weakness. Smart thinking, application, sublimation of ego. These are very important for all of us in whatever we do in life. There are challenges. Sometimes you'll bat like a dream and you can go on playing that. There are times when you can't find the gaps, the strokes don't come, you get dismissed. You have to self-control. You have to absorb lessons of life. The next one is this is one of my favorite pictures of all time from this sport, from cricket. Do you know what this is and who this is? Okay, so this is Kumar Ranjit Singh. We've got a national tournament in India named after him, Ranji Trophy. He never played for India. He played for England. He made a century on debut. He was a very colourful character, much loved in England and of course even in India. He invented this stroke called the leg glance. He and incidentally the two most famous people from Gujarat or Saurashtra or larger Gujarat, till very recently we had a prime minister from there, and before that Sardar Patel, were Mahatma Gandhi and Ranjit Singh, and they were in a sense contemporaries. I thought I'll just give you a little background. They were born within 9 miles of each other, Porbandar and Jamnagar. And when Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi went to England to study, to become a bar at law, he actually carried a letter of introduction to Ranjit Singh, who was there studying in Cambridge, which is, by Rajmohan Gandhi, is mentioned in his book about his grandfather. And I think somewhere Gandhi disliked cricket or started disliking cricket because he didn't like the hedonistic lifestyle that Ranjit Singh was living in England as a Nawab, as a Jam. He was, rich and silk finery and whatever else. He was part of English high society even then, despite the obvious colour barriers and whatever else. So it was not only about his money, because of he came from a royal family. That allure was obviously there, that romance was already there for the British, somebody from the Raj, but also because he was a magnificent cricketer. And what he's done here, this is what I call, after you've got the foundation, you've got a period of consolidation, you have to start innovating. This is a classic case of innovation coming in. Prior to Ranjit Singh, what he's done, he's deflecting the ball behind the wicket. He's playing the stroke with a flick of the wrist to behind the wicket. The ball is going behind the wicket. Prior to that, cricketing technique, orthodox technique said you have to play in the V. You play in front of the wicket. At best you play square of the wicket, point or square leg. Ranjit Singh, because he came from India, warm climate, supple wrists. The English people don't have such supple wrists because they've got extreme cold. By the time summer comes, even summer can be very cold in England. The wrists are not supple, they're not tensile. Ranjit Singh went there, and it was said of him, one of the famous cricket writers wrote about him, that he doesn't have a Christian stroke in his armory. These were all very hedonistic, So this is what he did, innovation. He decided, in front of the wicket, my opportunities are restricted. What can I do to optimize or maximize my opportunities? And he started playing the leg glance. The leg glance you can play off the front foot or off the back foot. It's a very nuanced, it's a very intricate shot. It's very subtle. It doesn't need power. It requires great footwork, balance, positioning, and obviously timing. It's a deft touch which can fetch you 4 runs. And there again you can place the glance where you want, depending on when you open the face of the bat. In my opinion, the guys who played the leg glance extremely well in India, two come to mind, and both are Hyderabadis. Mohammad Azharuddin and VVS Lakshman of the modern era. And the Hyderabadis have always been known to be stylish, It comes naturally to them. Maybe it has something to do with the diet, the food. But very stylish, very very delicate. Though both Azar and Lakshman were not short, they were slim when they started out, but they are pretty big guys. Both are 6 feet tall. But delicacy is in them. You don't find delicacy in a Gavaskar. Even in a Rahul Dravid, there's no delicacy. There may be command and control. Delicacy is something you will find, I find it amongst newer batsmen today, you will find it in Rohit Sharma, he is a stylist. Because fundamentally, they play the ball extremely late. When we say extremely late, obviously it's a nanosecond late, but it just gives them so much time. And as a spectator, you may not realize it when we're watching on TV, it's almost everything, and then you find that he's played a shot at the last minute. Because you feel that he's just delayed it too long. Anybody who's watched comic shows or comedy shows, the comic timing is very important. A great line where the timing is wrong will get no laughter. I'm not talking of slapstick, but of humor. Timing is so important in cricket as it is in comedy or humor. But of course, it's not funny for bowlers when they get hit like this, because in a leg glance, the bowler feels he's got everything right, and with just a deft touch, he's got to 4 runs. Now, what has happened with this stroke is, when this stroke came into being, you started having to put fielders behind to guard the runs, which means less fielders in front, which means more scoring opportunities in front of the wicket. So innovation creates more opportunities, you amplify your gains. This is the leg glance of the back foot. This is a representative picture. See how width of the pitch or the depth of the pitch, and it's just to, turn the wrist around. Now, can I just stop this again? Okay. This is the next period. You've got foundation, you've got consolidation, you've got innovation. I call this domination. I'm constructing a whole innings played by a batsman. Domination means you show great aggressive intent. You want to dominate the bowler. And I don't think of a better example than Viv Richards. Can I just play that again? Yeah. This is the hook shot. It's an overtly aggressive stroke. This is in your face. You're telling the bowler, to hell with you. This is a direct confrontation with the bowler or with an adversary. And it's obviously there to take off from foundation, consolidation, innovation into a very dominant mode. Grab the moment and the play. And obviously, again, this requires great footwork, great sense of, you need to have obviously that stroke in your armory and some physical courage. It's also, there's a risk involved in it. A higher risk than playing a forward defensive stroke or even a cover drive. Because almost 50-60% of the time, you will hit this ball in the air. And there are traps laid for you when people sense, the opponent sense that you may be a compulsive hooker or somebody who likes this shot, or you've got adrenaline rushing and you're likely to make that mistake. You put a square leg and a long leg, and they say, bolega bouncer dalo. And they've got 2 fielders there. And you hook it without rolling your wrist over, you let it in the air, there is a likelihood of your getting caught. There are compulsive hookers like Ian Chappell, like Viv Richards, like Virendra Sehwag, who are willing to take that gamble and that risk. Because they say, you take this stroke away from me, where will I get my runs from? I have to. That's my nature. So, also the battle against your essential nature is something that we all have to live with. We all have our own independent, individual, exclusive personalities, so to speak. Everybody can't be a Dravid, everybody can't be a Tendulkar, everybody can't be a Richards. If you can be a combination of all three, then you achieve superhuman status, but that's a different matter. But in the advantage of this is, you play this successfully, you have the opposite team or the opponents at your mercy. The crucial thing again is, and this is what I define as the messaging or the lesson that one gets from here, don't take your eyes off the ball. You can't take your eyes off the ball, whatever you may be doing. So I may be on a roll, I have hit a purple patch. If I'm writing a piece, and I remember when I was younger, I would do a tour 3 months long, 4 months long, and every day I would be writing 3-4 pieces. I was on a roll. You put me in front of a typewriter, I would bang away. Not even a laptop, those were manual typewriters. Then I realized that I can be a little more circumspect. I can do same quality or better quality of work, better pieces, a more attacking piece, so to speak. But I must be aware of what is needed from a newspaper's point of view. I don't need to write 5,000 words. I need to write maybe 1,000 words, but do it effectively. The communication is the important thing. Likewise, for a player, you don't have to hook every ball. You can let go. You can hook when you are clear that you are under the ball in a position to hook it and score runs. Okay, I've got some time now, 10 minutes more. This is, to me, the next stage, which is mastery. You have mastered the situation, and nothing describes this better to me than the straight drive. You've got foundation, consolidation, innovation, you've got dominance. You can't have that aggressive, adrenaline-driven dominance phase all the while. Then you go into a lunatic bin, you go into a loony bin. Then you have to come into a situation of mastery over the situation. And the straight drive is a classic exposition of mastery over circumstances, over the opponents, including yourself. Can I just play that again? No, this is the next one after that. So actually we've seen two shots. One is front foot straight drive, the other is back foot straight drive. The great thing to understand here is that this is Tendulkar again. There's no great effort. It is effortless. It's actually great judgment of line and length, getting behind the ball and opening the face of the bat, and there's not even a great follow through. Opens the face of the bat, sense of timing, the bowler is beaten, it's 4 runs behind the bowler where there's actually no fielder. You'll have a mid-off or a mid-on, but very unlikely that you'll have a fielder right behind the bowler. Now, mastery is, these are not easy strokes to play. This looks the simplest, but it's actually amongst the most difficult strokes to play. It's unlikely, unless you're of the class of a Tendulkar or a Gavaskar or a Lara or Jacques Kallis, to come and play this immediately, first ball, second ball, third ball, first over, maybe first 10-15 minutes. Highly unlikely. If you played for a long time, yes. These come when you spent maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours at the pitch, and you've mastered the environment, the situation, the bowling. And to me, this is the actual, if you're a fast bowler coming into bowl, you bowl to Tendulkar, and all he does is 1 foot forward, opens the face of the bat, ball goes screaming past you, is the most insulting thing. There's nothing which destroys an opponent better or more comprehensively than a straight drive. And this I call the phase of mastery. In the evolutionary path that I'm trying to trace here, from foundation, from consolidation, from innovation, dominance, to absolute mastery. And then, finally, which is my last stroke, which I will talk. This is the switch hit. That's Kevin Peterson playing the switch hit, and he's actually hit it for a 6. Look at it. And this has become very important to understand in the context of today's world. So you have started off your innings, your career from wherever else, or at least from the start, from a strong foundation to expressing your great talent, consolidating, from innovating, to stay afloat, to dominating in a purple patch, and then becoming a master of the environment. And then you suddenly find that if you drop your guard, if you're not on your toes, somebody else comes and plays a very disruptive role. This is what I call chaos and disruption, which happens in what seems like a completely settled environment. Who would have thought that somebody, a right-hand batsman, would play a switch hit and hit it for a 6? There's still some debate over whether this is a legitimate stroke or not. This is different from a reverse sweep. In a reverse sweep, the grip remains the same. I hold the bat, I turn the bat around, and I play it. In a switch hit, I change the grip. I change the grip, I go, my bottom hand becomes my top hand becomes my bottom hand, and then I hit it for the 6. Now why is there a dispute? I'm just giving you a cricketing background. If a bowler is coming in to bowl, he has to tell the umpire right arm over, left arm around the wicket. He can't come in as a right arm bowler and suddenly bowl left arm. It's a no ball. The debate in cricketing circles is, should not the batsman tell the bowler that I'm going to play left-handed? He's taking a stance as a right-hander, but he's playing as a left-hander. So the bowler has lost his line and length. Now there is a big issue. It's a debate. As of now, the ICC has, or the MCC has not banned it. There is huge debate in the technical committee where all the former cricketers are involved. But it's an extremely exciting stroke, and where the opposition is concerned, it's a devastating, it's a damaging stroke. It damages you psychologically. So from a job, work, business point of view, there is a positive spin to it, which is unless you have the ability to be disruptive in an environment which becomes placid and well settled and therefore not moving ahead, you might actually lose out very badly because somebody else will come and disrupt it and take the game away from you, so to speak. So you have to be disruptive. So let me give you an example of what happened in cricket commentary, for instance. Cricket commentary was placid, exciting to the sense it was matter of fact, driven by, state khila. And then what happened in 2004, Sony Setmax decided they'll put Mandira Bailey there in the commentary team and in the panel of discussion, who was, not that she doesn't know, but her role was to play that of a no-brainer, asking questions of the experts. And it drew suddenly women into watching. Hey, what is this? Her noodle straps and all to make her look attractive, that is one part. The more exciting or the more interesting or the more significant messaging was drawing people who are otherwise not interested, who have the same questions, they didn't know who to ask because the commentators are on their own planet. So you had this lady who was manifesting those inquiries, those questions of the commentators, and it became a big hit. And now, of course, you found that women also do cricket commentary. Women cricketers are coming in as commentators. So from the broadcast point of view, that was a disruptive element. From cricketing point of view, the switch hit is disruptive in the T20 format, which is crunched for time, where batsmen don't have the time to lay. You can't have a foundation being laid for 1 hour. The match is over. Your innings is over. So the disruptive element has become extremely crucial, and not just in T20 or ODIs, but it's also getting into Test cricket. Not from a batting point of view, bowling point of view. The doosra is disruptive of the rules, of the understanding, conventional understanding of the game. Off spinners bowling leg spinners was in our era unthinkable. So the disruptive aspect is as crucial in our lives because the pace of life has changed. Technology is changing lives almost by the minute. And unless we are aware of where we are living, how we are living, what are the influences on us, the disruptive element can actually end up destroying us rather than us becoming or aligning ourselves with the disruptive thing to absorb it in our understanding, our lives, our jobs, and saying, hey, we can write this, and perhaps somewhere ahead in the road, we can be the disruptors to our advantage. The disruptive element is not only a disadvantage, it's got a big advantage too. So I think these to me are the 6 facets of batsmanship which make I've added the last bit because the game is going through a cathartic change, even cricket, and likewise our lives are going through a cathartic change. If I may just move away from cricket for a second or two, what we saw in the recent general elections was a completely disruptive way of campaigning, which was highly successful, using social media, the messaging system. It's very different from the conventional, I'll go and give a speech, वो सब तो हुआ, उसके साथ जो हुआ, it's a case study, and it is going to tell us how elections are going to be fought in the future. And they will be fought in the future when somebody else comes up with another disruptive method. So, as we say that unless there is disruption and chaos, even the world started that way. When the Almighty wanted to start, there was a storm, and if you go look at the way it's announced biblically, that before the world came into being, there was a raging storm, and earthquakes, and God knows what else. So, disruption is, I think, essential to creativity. That's all for me. Thank you very much. I thought one last question I'll ask you, which is a big question. Can anybody tell me what is the difference? I think I spoke to Mr. Murthy last time. What is the difference between Virendra Sehwag and Rahul Dravid? Come on, venture and answer.
Rahul Dravid is a war.
Yes. Well, that's what we're looking at. I think the way I see it, one is an entrepreneur, the other is a banker. So, that's the way I see it. Thank you so much for being a patient audience. I hope that I've been able to kind of express not just the cricketing aspect, but also of how, to me, cricket is more than just a sport, it's a way of life. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. And now I request Mr. Murthy to please come forward and present the memento to Mr. Ayaaz Memon. Can we have the memento, please?